Hey everybody, I am so sorry. I told you this was my favorite section to teach and the thing I'm most passionate about, and then I disappear and you haven't heard from me in 2 weeks. I'm so sorry. I've been traveling for work and I just have not had the time or space to record for you, so I do apologize. I'm going to quickly go through chapters 8, 9, and 10 just to get caught up. I'll start with chapter 11 again next week and really do a longer video about it. And we'll talk more specifically about chapter 10 maybe next week. Just because I feel that's the HR sections are very important and the management, the human resource management part of it is vital, and we need to talk about it some more. But we finished off last time on chapter 7, so let's go through chapter 8 just real quick. So this is finishing up the producing quality goods and services discussion as part of management, excuse me, as part of like product management. So they talk about production and the process and understanding the importance of service businesses and how important they are to the economy and business as a whole. You can read about all of that. Research and development, kind of the basics of how that is done, and of course that's done differently in every industry, right? A research and development for a drug company, say, is much different than research and development for a car company, or that's much different than research and development for a service type organization, or a cell phone carrier. Or everybody's going to have their own R&D, and they're each going to have a different level of complexity or regulation or compliance or whatever it is that they have to do. So that's all going to be different, but they tell you a little bit about the process. They tell you about planning and the production process. And then the thing that interests me most about chapter 8 is section 6, purchasing, inventory control, scheduling, and quality control, just because that is what I do, what I have done for a significant amount of time. So my role, I'm actually part of our procurement organization in the company that I work for full time. My role right now is vendor management. So we make sure that the vendors are living up to their contracts once they're in place. Vendors, suppliers, it's the same thing. The word is synonymous. We call them vendors. In the book, they call them suppliers, I think, but they're the same thing. So we have a sourcing team that actually negotiates contracts, and they talk about it a little bit here. Purchasing, they call it. Purchasing involves selecting suppliers. The choice of suppliers should result from careful analysis of a number of factors, including price, quality, reliability, credit, and shipping costs. And that I did that for many years. That was my role, was to contract with new suppliers or vendors to we're a service company, so in most cases they issued service, unless they were IT and they had software or something like that. But for the most part, it was services. I mean, we went by a lot more things than just this. I'm sure I've told you, right? We're in healthcare, so health insurance has a significant amount of regulation with it. So we had to make sure they were in compliance. They were not anyone's blacklist. They are not. They don't have any felonies on their records, or all their employees can pass the background checks, and so there's a lot more that goes into it depending on what industry you're in. That is of special interest to me just because I've done it for so long. I've been in vendor management now for just over 10 years, and before that I was on the vendor side of vendor management. That particular section is of interest. I like that they talk about quality, right? So quality circles, inspection, total quality management, and Six Sigma can be used to encourage employee participation. My company does Six Sigma. They encourage us to get belts. I do not have it. It's a belt system. It's like karate. It starts white, yellow, green, blue, I think. There's 6 of them, obviously, from the name 6. It ends at black. I don't know what they are. White, yellow, blue, green, black. I missed one. Red, maybe. I don't know what the belts are, but I have people on my team who are going through it. I have a yellow belt who's currently trying to get her green belt, and I have a one who's just starting, so she's like a white belt or a starter. So it is encouraged as a quality program, and you go through you do different projects within your field to go through the belts, and it's a It's like a college course where you have other student peers, you have an instructor, they help you go through the process, and you get a little more experience with every belt. So it's nice when companies use that to help maintain their quality. The last thing they talk about is things that will make American firms more productive and competitive. It's a long list. I don't think the list they give you in the book is the whole list, right? There's more. There's more there. Okay, so that's the end of like the product management discussion, and then we move into chapter 9, which is about human resource management. And like I told you, this is what I do now. This is what well, not now. I've done it for a long time. This is what I like. I've not really been involved in product management. That's not ever been the company that I work for. So human resource management is what I do, what I have done. My undergrad degree is in human resources. So this is the kind of thing I like. So they talk about human resource management and the things that go into it. It is hiring. It is acquiring, maintaining, developing the organization's human resources. So they call them human assets, human resources, associates, whatever you want to call them. Any person who works, my lighting is weird today. Any person who works at your company is a human asset, a human resource. So that just don't let the terms get you confused. It doesn't just mean that little office that sits in the corner with the HR lady, right? Everybody who works for that company is technically a human resource or a human asset. They talk about cultural diversity. That's a huge discussion right now and has been for a long time, but companies are really starting to embrace it and embrace not just the regulation and the law around it, because that is there, right, of course, but they're also trying to embrace the importance of it, not just because it's required, but it is important, right? If you have 10 people who all look the same, act the same, have the same background, you don't get a lot of creativity in your business and how to move forward. And that you need that diversity. You need people with different backgrounds to really give you a diversity of ideas to be able to be the most effective at your job. So I know my company has a whole department that is dedicated to diversity, and it's very important and continues to be more and more important. They talk about compensation and recruiting, all important stuff. Definitely read through it. They talk about performance appraisals at my company. That happens every year. It happens in February, between January and February, and so we just ended that cycle. So I get mine from my boss, of course, and then I have my associates that I have to think about them as people, them as employees, and their performance for the year before, and rate them on that. They rate themselves, and then I rate them also, and then we go back and look at the gaps of how they think they did and how I think they did, and that sets our bar for this coming year. So all important stuff. Definitely read through there. Chapter 10 then moves on to, we're still talking about human resources, but we're talking about motivation. They still call it management, I think. This is what I start to call leadership. I think I said this to you before, but management in my mind is the science. It's the spreadsheets. It's the black and white of things. I think of that more almost as like the product management. It's the stuff that's very tangible. It's the things that you can concretely write a number to. And then the leadership aspect, which is what we're moving into now with motivating your team, that's the leadership. That's the art of it. That's the getting people to follow you, even though they don't have to, right? They want to. They want to be a part of your organization. They want to know that you're looking out for them and advocating for them. And that's what we're moving into now here in chapter 10, talking about motivating and satisfying employees. So I highlighted a ton in this chapter for me, because this is what I do every day. This is what good managers do. This is what good leaders do at any level. It doesn't matter. And even if your title is not manager or supervisor or whatever, even if you're not necessarily in a management role, there's a thing called leading without authority. There's many books on it. And it's about how to be an individual contributor, but not just watch out for yourself. So many people are only out for themselves, they only watch themselves. But a leader without authority doesn't necessarily have the title, but they're still considered a leader. They're still the person on their team that people look to, either because they don't have a good leader, or they look to that person to go to their leader, or whatever it is. Every team needs a de facto leader, and a lot of times that person is not the one with the title. So leadership is important even if you don't have a leadership title. So do some research on it, look out there. Just even if you Google leading without authority, there's a ton of articles and stuff out there that can help you to understand what you can do as a leader without a title of a leader, to still earn respect and to still grow your career if people leader is a way you want to go. Not everybody does. Not everybody wants to be responsible for other people, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want to get there, and you're just starting out in your career or starting in a new position, or whatever it is, look for that and see what you can learn from that. So they talk about motivation. Obviously, it's getting someone excited, right, to do what they're supposed to do, or more than they're supposed to do, ideally. They talk about historical perspectives. You can read all that. There's a ton of information there. Probably stuff you want to remember for our final exam. But, I mean, it's good stuff. You can build on it. But it's historical, right? It's not necessarily what we're doing now. The one I do like is the last thing that they mention, the reinforcement theory, based on the idea that people will repeat behavior that is rewarded, and avoid behavior that's punished. That's just human nature, right? You're always going to do what feels good, what gets you a reward, and you're maybe not going to do what gets punished. Some people do what gets punished on purpose, just, I don't know, to cause trouble or to get fired or to do whatever it is. But I mean, that's what it is, right? Reinforcement theory. People do what gets rewarded. And always remember that. And, as a leader, you need to even subconsciously think, am I rewarding this? Like, what am I fostering as a leader? I just had an associate who left my team who had been with a director before, and she was a bully. She was always a bully. She was a bully to everyone. And her director actually used that and set her on people as a bully and encouraged her to be a bully. So when I came, I said, we're not doing that. That's not how I do business, and I will not advocate for you to do harm to other people. So we will not bully anymore. And she left. She didn't want to be in an environment where that would be punished and not rewarded, because that's what she liked to do. She liked to be mean to people. And I said, great, go find a different person to do that with, because my team does not bully. We'll get stuff done in an efficient manner without acting that way. So it got, as soon as it was not a reward and became a punishment, she won't do it anymore. So just remember that for your kids too, not just your employees. So they talk about increasing motivation. There's a ton of stuff here. Behavior modification, changes undesirable behaviors, allowing associates to work flexible hours. That's huge. Allowing people to work from home now, especially since the pandemic, that's huge. My company has totally changed their stance. Before, they didn't, if you were a leader of people, you couldn't work at home, you had to be in an office. And now after the pandemic, they've totally changed and said, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in an office, go work from home and we'll figure it out. So that's huge, because a lot of leaders, people who would be in a leadership level, they don't want to be in an office every day. They have other things, they have other lives. And so, at least for me, it was huge, because prior to the pandemic, I couldn't be, after they changed that rule, I couldn't be in a leadership role because I work from home. So that was an encouragement for me to stay. I might have had to leave if they didn't do that. Job enrichment is varying tasks. Job redesign is changing things, maybe to get a better worker-job match. I have a lot of employees who do great things. They don't do great at the things they're assigned, though. So we move those things around and get them where they should be. Job sharing, employee empowerment. Okay, I made it through really quick, the things I wanted to go through. But definitely read through those chapters if you haven't already, 8, 9, and 10. They're great chapters. And we will early next week, I promise I won't forget, not that I forgot you, but I promise I will have time to do it. We're going to start talking about marketing. I want to revisit chapter 10 a little bit, because we didn't really have a chance to touch on everything I wanted to, and I had to talk very quickly through it. So we're going to go back to managing human resources again a little bit next week. and then look at chapter 11. So thank you guys. I'm again sorry I wasn't around for a while, but if you need anything from me, as always, reach out, let me know, and I will talk to you very early next week. Thanks. Bye.